If the business understands how long something takes to close a deal, it's going to help you guys identify who the best performers are on your sales team, the worst performers who maybe needs to go on a PIP, but you're also going to understand how we can increase close rates because we can improve the talk track. We can go to the best performers, see what they're saying, and then give that to the rest of the team. This is also really going to help the business forecast to know how much money we're expecting to close in a given month or a given year. And then in turn, that helps them budget out for things like how much we spend on marketing, how many new hires we can pull in, if we're overstaffed, if we have to fire people. So this actually affects quite a bit of stuff. So it's kind of crazy that a lot of this hinges on just one simple thing we can do in Salesforce, which is just automatically stamping a date when a deal moves through the sales cycle. So really small fix, but it actually has a lot of return for the business if you do it properly. So that's what we're going to explain here. This is what this diagram is. So jumping in, what you have is an opportunity or a deal, you might call it that. Basically, a lead says, yeah, I'm pretty interested in what you guys have to say. You jump on like your first discovery call, and now you're rolling with what we call an opportunity in Salesforce, or you might call it a deal. At that point, we want to understand what stage of the sales cycle you're in. So within the sales cycle, you're probably familiar with this, but there's going to be more than one step. Unfortunately, not many people are just a one-time close, right? It's very rare when that happens. And in that instance, even if they are a one-time close, there's still a process that you have to follow. You still have to send them a contract. You still have to make sure that people are on board. You still have to make sure your finance gets everything lined up. You still have to offboard them and onboard them over into the customer service side so you can get your service or product up and running for them. So there's still a process, even if you one-time close them. And that's what this represents here. So these might be called different for your business. Don't pay too much attention to them. These are pretty generic terms that you'll see for a sales process. Open, just meaning, hey, somebody just came in. Prospecting, you start calling them or reaching out. Qualifying to see if they're a good fit. Do they meet the criteria of the ideal customer that you're going to sell to? Can they afford your services? All that. Proposal sent, we sent the contract or the proposal. We're now negotiating that contract or proposal or rates. And then obviously a closed won is what they call it when you close out the deal and you win it, or close lost if unfortunately they say no. So that's what these represent here. And when we go through those, we want to automatically, like I said, stamp the date. So when it hits open, we're going to stamp the date and say, okay, today was the day that this hit open. And then when we move that into these other ones, we'll stamp the date again. And what we can do there is obviously some reverse engineering to figure out how long that took for each one of these stages. So if this took 5 days, we'll have that now because we know when this went into prospecting as the next stage. And then when we find these anomalies where there might be, a specific person or a specific type of deal that we work where it's taking much longer, that helps the business dive into, like I said, the talk track, maybe who's on the team handling those objections, and or the product or service itself. There might just be things in there that we're missing, gaps that we have that we're not fulfilling. And for that reason, it takes a lot longer to close the deal. So this really helps you button this up. As we always talk about, I feel like when I get on these system videos, we're really talking a lot about anytime it's the sales process, you want to try to narrow that down to as little as time as possible because there's such a short window when somebody becomes interested in buying your product or service. So in that little window, we really want to capitalize on just trying to get them through as smoothly and fast as possible. So that way we have the highest chance with our sales team to be able to close that deal out. So this is what is going to help you do that. Number one, get that faster and smoother for the sales team. But then again, like I said, you get all these benefits of forecasting and knowing who to put on a PIP, knowing who to promote, knowing where you should be getting some advice from if you are like having new hires come in, who they should be maybe shadowing when they first start out. So it helps you identify a lot of that to just make sure everything's moving like a smooth running machine. So if you do not have this, I strongly recommend doing this. Like I said, it's super simple in Salesforce. You're just automatically stamping the date as these go through. So it really does not take much time at all to stand this up. But if you'd like help doing that, you've never done this before, I do have a link in the description below. You can click that. We'll see if we're a good fit for you guys. And if we are, we can get in and implement a system like this for you. Appreciate it.